After not seeing the NBA Finals for the first time since Steve Kerr took over as head coach, the NBA media pounced onto the Warriors. Left, right, and center, keyboard warriors took out their personal computers and started filling the internet up with headlines saying things like, "The dynasty is over. They have a 1% chance next year. It was fun while it lasted." How ridiculous. Well, whether or not it was meant to be a joke, whether or not those comments were made in the heat of the moment, the words reached the Warriors, and, well, they've responded. Golden State now seems primed to have a revenge season in 2024, and Steph's old words of, "You don't want to see us next year," has never been more true. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you never mess with the Warriors. If there's one thing I learned from closely following the NBA for 2 decades, it's that players know when their time is up, that they know when it's over. Like LeBron in 2014, for example, when he knew the Heat couldn't compete anymore. He went back to Cleveland, and then in 2018, when he knew that Cleveland couldn't compete anymore, he went to LA. I guess KD would fall under this category too. When he felt like he couldn't win with Russ anymore, he went to Golden State. Then when he felt like he couldn't win with Kyrie anymore, he went to Phoenix. Players know when their time is up, and when that time comes, one thing they absolutely don't do is declare that more championships are underway. Well, Draymond Green is a champion through and through. Like, for pretty much half his career, he lived in the finals, so one could say he knows a thing or two about what it takes to reach the mountaintop of the league. Well, just recently, he made a huge declaration to the NBA world when he said,
"But I don't see why we can't get 2 more championships. But I don't see why we can't get 2 more championships."
Whoa! Now, it is important to note that these are his words even after seeing what Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets are capable of, and even after seeing the formation of Phoenix's new Big Three. You know, one could say that Draymond is a bit annoying, that his voice is too loud and he's too aggressive in his speech. But if there's one thing about him, it's that he always speaks his unfiltered truth. And if you're wondering why he's so confident in his team, a huge part of that could be attributed to this next point. Last season, whenever teams played against the Warriors, they had one thought in mind: punish these small, puny humans. That was more or less the game plan every night against Golden State. Beat them with size. Like this. And like this. And like this. Well, the Warriors had enough of it, and that hole in their system has now been patched up. As of the very moment, they got Kevon Looney, Trace Jackson-Davis, and Dario Saric. Then on top of that, with one of their remaining open roster spots, the word on the street is that they're looking to add either Neemias Queta or Nerlens Noel, who are both more or less 7-footers. And while they may not be the best centers in the league, they could definitely play the role JaVale McGee played years ago when he transformed himself from a Shaqtin' a Fool champion into a superstar role player. Either way, the Warriors are tired of all the slander, and they've fixed their biggest weakness, and that leads me directly into my next point. At the NBA level, every team has talent. I mean, on any given night, role players can come out of nowhere and shock the world. Like Cam Thomas, for example. He's mainly known as a role player who averages about 10 points a game, but all of a sudden came out and dropped like what? 3 consecutive 40-point games? Well, Steph Curry understands this more than most players, that just as important as talent is chemistry. And Kuminga reiterated this perfectly when he said,
"Another thing, it's not just about basketball. Steph Curry is like this one human being who's perfect. Like, he literally like perfect. Like, he comes to the gym, he's the parents first. He comes to the gym the same way he act at home, same way he act on the floor, same way he act at practice. He don't get into any problem. He speak to everybody. Like, he's gonna start a conversation even if you don't want to. He's gonna come find you and talk to you."
Evidently, Steph knows that whether a player gets heavy minutes or not, their energy affects the team. So what did Curry do? Well, he held a players-only camp out in Las Vegas where everyone except Šarić attended, who was playing for Team Croatia at the time. It was a massive success as it helped newcomers Brandon and Trace blend into the Warriors culture and allow the team to get to know Chris Paul better too. I got a feeling that the incredible chemistry the team had back in 2022 is gonna make a comeback, and it's quite evident at this point. The chef is ready for everything this season. He's rallying the troops, getting them ready for another deep championship push, and not even the commissioner himself could stop Curry at this point. If you're wondering what new change I'm talking about, it's the new load management rule that states teams may only rest one star per game, where a star is defined as players who have been named an All-Star or to the All-NBA team within the past 3 seasons. So for the Warriors, that's Steph, CP3, Draymond, and Wiggins. Klay's fortunate that he was snubbed from the All-Star team last season. Looking at this rule, it more or less affects teams that are more top-heavy, like the Lakers and the Clippers, for example. It actually doesn't really change much for the Warriors, and that's because of their depth. I mean, with how deep they are and with how good their lineups are going to be, I forecast 2016 happening all over again, where they run teams out of the building and sit on the bench with pina coladas in the fourth. And this leads me to one last important aspect about the Warriors that most people don't understand. If there's one thing people don't fully understand about the Warriors, it's how obsessed they are with getting better and winning. Take Steph Curry as a prime example. He understands that the difference between winning and losing could be very marginal and wants every little inch of advantage he could get. Here's what I mean. When we normally think of how a player could get better, the things that come to mind are handles, shooting abilities, defense, basketball IQ, leadership, etc., right? I mean, what else is there? Well, believe it or not, one area Curry said he's been working on is breathing. Yeah, guys, I kid you not. He's working on breathing. And here's exactly what he said.
What is the smallest detail of basketball that you can share with us?
Probably breathing. My skills coach, Brandon Payne, always talks about breathing is a skill. I think for the young kids, like, it's beneficial, but they can kind of get away with it just because they're, so energetic and young, and they don't even need to warm up these days. They just go out there and hoop. But the deeper you get into your career, being able to control your breathing, like recovery, controlling your nerves, all those type of things, I've really tried to master that in the last 5-6 years. But that's probably, nobody would really know you're doing it when you're doing it. That's like an all the time thing. It doesn't matter if it's, in my training sessions or training camp or preseason or regular season or finals, whatever it is, like that's always a fine detail of kind of mastering the game.
Sheesh, guys. When a guy is going so far as to work on his breathing, that's when you know you don't want to mess with him. Then, in addition to Curry, the Warriors now have Chris Paul on the roster too. Similar to Steph, whenever people think of CP3, they think of the handles, the passing abilities, the mid-range, but one thing they don't see behind all of that flash is the fire. Like, Lamar Odom once compared him to Kobe Bryant himself when it comes to Chris's level of competitiveness. I mean, they tried to bury him in OKC, and yet, in a loaded Western Conference, not only did he get them into the playoffs, but he was only one play away from eliminating a prime James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Then to follow that performance up, he brought Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, who both never even sniffed the playoffs, straight to the NBA Finals. If you just stop and think about that, it's insane. Ladies and gentlemen, the NBA made a huge mistake when messing with the Warriors.